Hi guys, so Dr. Helen Wall, a GP, was interviewed by BBC Breakfast where she explained how her patients have completely changed their lives due to the cost of living crisis. She was invited on to talk about how the government has ended the free lateral flow test scheme. But if people can't afford to eat, then how can they be expected to go get a test in order to keep members of the public safe? Now, you would imagine ordinary people would be supportive of this position. Well, that's not really the case. Have a listen.
We know the cost of living crisis is a real issue right now. I've got patients telling me they can't afford to eat. They're having to walk to work, miles because they can't put petrol in their car, or cut down shifts because they can't put petrol in their car. There's no way many of our population will be able to or choose to pay for a test because they'll have to prioritise their money. They're having to do that already.
And she's completely correct. Many people are having to prioritise. It's not we're beyond the stage of heating and eating. It's about eating, but what type of food can I eat? Because if it's potatoes, well, I have to reject that because I'm going to have to cook these potatoes, and that's going to require an amount of energy that I probably can't afford. So some food banks, if you haven't already heard, some food banks have rejected, for example, root vegetables because they have to be boiled before cooked. And this is something that many people are afraid to do because they're afraid that they're not going to be able to afford to boil free food. We're at this stage where people are rejecting free food because they may actually have to pay to boil, to cook it, and they can't afford that extra cost. So the idea that, the government are taking away this ability for people to have free access to tests during a pandemic, okay, it's not over yet, during the pandemic, means that many people will, of course, avoid having a test. Now, you would think most people would agree with that position. Well, not really. The BBC interviewed these two people on the same day on the issue of should the government end the free lateral flow test scheme.
We've got to get used to living with it and accept things, and the government hasn't got a never-ending pot of money to pay for everything.
I really hate this argument, and it's not just about the pandemic, it's in general. This idea that the government has a limited amount of money. No, the government is not like a household. Now, right-wing commentators will try to present the idea that the government has to act like a household. It takes in money, it has to spend it in the way that a household would, on heating or food or whatever. Governments don't act like that. Governments have the ability to raise finance in ways that ordinary people cannot. Through central banks, for example, through printing money, through issuing bonds. Government have access. If the government want to spend money on something, they can do it. Now, it's not like a household. There is an unlimited amount of money for the government to spend. Now, there are consequences, of course. Raising finance, raising debt. But it's a stupid position, I'm sorry, to take that the government have a limited amount of money. They don't. So to say that, well, we need to live with this and the government need to cut back because they need to spend money on something else. Well, what should they be spending the money on instead? £37 billion was given to Dido Harding. Now, where has that money gone? Where the hell is Dido Harding gone? We haven't heard from her for months, for almost a year, I think. But that £37 billion, where has it gone? It can't all have been spent on consultants at £8,000 a day. So I think it's a stupid idea to take away this protection because many people will rely on a test in order to protect members of the public. Now, I'm not talking about mostly healthy people. I'm talking about people who are maybe in care homes, elderly people, vulnerable people, people with already deprived immune systems. These people need to be protected. And one way is by taking a test. If you take a test, there's a possibility that you can protect that person by, okay, I test positive, I don't go and visit that person until I test negative. And in order to do so, you need to have a test. And until recently, it was free. But by making it, something that you have to pay for, many people will decide not to have the test, will not decide to take the test. And this is the wrong way to go. But I'm not blaming the people, because if you're already struggling and you're saying, I'm going to reject potatoes, for example, from the food bank because I can't cook them, then I'm not going to begrudge somebody the amount of money it costs to get a test done. They're put in a position where they see whatever the test costs as a waste of money, because I could have spent that money on food. I could have spent that money on paying off my gas bill or my electricity bill. So I think this approach is completely wrong. And also, the pandemic is not over. You could, if you want to make an argument for this, yes, maybe in a few years' time when the pandemic is over and in very limited cases, somebody would have to take a test, and then it's a cost. But one of the reasons of having a health service is to protect people, and that's one of the reasons why we pay our taxes. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.